All right, guys, we're back. The Steelhead Nation podcast is back. We have a little different format now. Been experimenting with a couple different ways of doing this. We've had guests. We've had guests in studio. We've had guests over Instagram. We've had guests over Zoom. And ultimately, I think we just kind of came down to the idea that really the way we wanted to do it was to just try different whiskeys and sit around with me and Adam and shoot the shit.
Looks like our two favorite things.
Yeah. If you're going to be authentic, you might as well do exactly
Authentic things.
what is authentic to you. So what do we got? What are we doing?
What are we drinking today? We got a little. This is your pick.
The Hudson.
The Hudson.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you pour.
So
right.
I got this a while back. I got this from, I think it was a West Salem liquor store. I walked in, and they sold me on the branding. We are in no way affiliated with Hudson Whiskey, but they sold me on the branding. Just clean Helvetica font, weird little stubby bottle. I don't know, I just liked it a lot, so I got it, and it was actually damn good. So I bought a bottle for my buddy Chris Clogston. Shout out to Chris down in Southern Oregon. By the way, this is the new episode of Always Searching, our new web series on YouTube,
where we are also drinking whiskey.
It's a trend. And if you guys have not gone and checked out the new episode, this is California Chrome. We went down to Northern California and we're chasing striper with some old friends, visiting some old friends, and fishing with old friends. Go to YouTube, check it out. Just go to the Steelhead Gear channel and subscribe. It's my buddy Eric's kid. He is a ripper. Look at him go. Little guy. All right. The Hudson Whiskey. So our resident whiskey snob here, Adam McNamara, he's the guy that's going to tell you it's got notes of gym sock and vanilla.
Old shoe.
Old shoe and vanilla.
Old shoe.
That's a little
vanilla.
heavy pour, huh?
You know.
I'll go a little lighter for me. Okay. The Hudson. Find it at your local liquor store, I would imagine. Give it that a shot. We'll sit right here next to the Steelhead coffee.
Next to the coffee.
I spilled it all over myself. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so we went down to California, and that's good.
You taste that gym sock?
I do. I did a little gym sock, little asbestos. We went down to California and went striper fishing with our buddy John Coots, and it was an absolute blast. Got to visit old friends, new friends to you. My buddy Eric, I hadn't seen in years. He couldn't go fishing with us because he had to work, but it was awesome. Visited with him, and then we went out and went striper fishing, and it was pretty good fishing. It wasn't red hot. I've been down there when it was red hot.
Yeah, wrong pipe. As have I. Or I got COVID.
Yeah.
I probably got the vid.
Yeah.
You know, I got the whiskey vid.
Yeah.
No, I've been down there when it's red hot too. It was definitely not red hot, but it was really consistent.
Yeah.
And he kept us on fish pretty much all day. You know, we had to work for him, but
yeah,
it's fun.
I noticed that the size of fish was noticeably smaller than what I was used to even 5 years ago when I was down there. They're just, I don't know. I don't know enough about the species to make a judgment call as to why, but it seemed as though across the board, and I'm also probably basing this off of the pictures that I've seen from customers down in Northern California striper fishing, that while they're nice fish and the good little taco fish, but most of them were pretty close to the minimum length.
Or smaller.
Which is, yeah, we threw a lot of fish back. Yeah,
yeah, that for me was kind of a new experience down there. I mean, in the past when I've been there, we caught a lot of those kind of taco, those slot limit fish, but the smaller size.
Yeah.
But very few times have I ever seen undersized fish.
Yeah.
We actually got, it wasn't like some obscene amount of tiny fish, but I was surprised because I've never really seen that many small fish.
Yeah, it was enough to go, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You go at night with, there's Ray Hereford, who you met when we were down there, RH Guide Service. He's been guiding down there since the dawn of time, and he goes out at night and they chase the big mamas, and they get regularly 30-pound fish. But I don't know. It was just interesting to see. Most of the fish we kept were right at 18 inches.
Yeah.
And if my memory serves me correctly, we 5, 6, 7 years ago, and then especially growing up as a kid down there, it was like 20, 21-inch fish were the norm all the time. 24-inch fish was a great fish.
It's always been my understanding about stripers, and again, this is just what I've been told from friends of mine who are guides down there or whatever, that you typically with stripers either see lots of fish or bigger fish, but not lots of
bigger fish.
And they tend to be whatever size, obviously it sounds stupid to say they tend to be whatever size they are, but because they school by size.
Those fish are going to be about the size.
About the size that you catch them at.
When you catch them.
When you catch a fish, it's about how big it is.
More often than not, they don't get bigger when you pull them in the boat.
Only if you don't keep them.
Yeah.
If you don't keep them, they get much larger. They instantly get larger. Yeah. But because they school and because they tend to school by size, it's always been my understanding that if you're getting a lot of smaller fish, that's because those schools of smaller fish are what's around at a given time. You go find bigger fish, you tend to catch fewer fish, but the bigger fish tend to school together, is what I've been told. So
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I love striper fishing down there. It is one of those things that you just do when you're from that area. It's like duck hunting. It used to be pheasant hunting a lot down there. Not so much anymore. I mean, not that there isn't any, but there's not near the numbers like when I was a kid in the 80s.
I think that's
dating myself here.
I think that's the case all over. I used to see pheasants a lot when I was a kid.
Especially
growing up around here, and
they're non-existent. Since I've lived in Oregon, I've seen 2 pheasants.
Yeah.
One was in a ditch in Forest Grove, probably belonged to a guy, got out.
Yeah.
And then the other was in LaGrange.
Yeah.
Just driving through a field and there was one.
Yeah. You see them a lot on the east side, but here in the valley, I grew up here, and as a kid, they were not common, but they were, fairly common to see.
Yeah.
You'd see a handful a year, and I don't know the last time I even saw a pheasant in this valley.
I had read something somewhere, and this could be total bullshit, but I had read something somewhere that Oregon was originally where, because they're from
transplants from China.
China, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had heard that Oregon was like the original spot that they brought them to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they seem to have moved on.
Yeah, or we killed them all.
Or we shot them
all. But yeah, what do you think of the whiskey?
It's good, dude. It's good. I don't taste much of that Jim sock.
What's the professional opinion of it?
Oh, it tastes like whiskey. Delicious whiskey.
delicious whiskey. Let's see what it says.
Sweet whiskey.
Let's see what it says. As bold as New York.
Well, that's not a good sign.
Bright Lights Big Bourbon. Never one to shy away from the spotlight. Bright Lights Big Bourbon is a bold, grain forward, no holds barred, straight bourbon whiskey. Distilled from New York corn. New York corn.
Special corn.
That corn's from New York City.
That really jumps my high.
And aged in new charred American oak barrels with notes of rich vanilla and lightly salted caramel on the finish. I was going to say, it tastes like the caramel, almost like you get in like an Elijah Craig. Elijah Craig goes heavy on the caramel.
If I can say this, though, and I have lots of whiskey, I drink lots of whiskey. I don't know the last time I got a whiskey that they weren't like, it tastes like vanilla and caramel.
I know, right? Yeah, like, on the bottle.
Really, you got me.
Yeah. But do you get that, Elijah?
Knocked my socks off.
Yeah. Do you get that? It even kind of smells like it.
Yeah.
It's good Elijah, not the swill Elijah Craig.
The swill.
What is it? The 12-year or whatever it is? Not 12-year, 7-year. I can't afford the 12-year.
Yeah, it depends, man. Like, I'll be honest, dude. I got a bottle of Elijah Craig 18-year at my house right now, and it's a little oaky for me, actually.
Yeah,
I don't love it.
It's better when the ice melts.
Yeah,
I actually really like these glasses. Yeah, back to striper fishing though. We went and we caught a fine pile of fish, and then we went down to my buddy Dustin's, or up to my buddy Dustin's house in the foothills, and made some fish tacos. He got John here, who's he's doing the I got my Google password required apparently. He's filleting them, and the prep on those fish isn't too crazy. I mean, you got to cut all the red stuff out, get the fishy part, and it still tastes like fish. But fish tacos with striper are amazing. What would you say the closest, if you've never had striper, the closest taste?
They're a lot like rock bass.
I was just gonna say
like black rocks, or you know, like sea bass.
Yep.
They're exactly like that. They're sweet. They're flaky. They're delicious. I told my buddy when I got back, I was like, man, if those things were closer to me, it's all I'd ever fish for.
Oh yeah.
Because they're delicious to eat. There's a ton of fish.
Yeah.
You know, you catch a bunch of them. They're
Won't
super
divulge
fun.
the secret, but they might be.
Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely closer than that. But, But not in that quantity. Not in that style of fishery.
No. No, that's a different gig. But I mean, look at Dustin's outdoor kitchen. That thing is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure. Probably one of the best things about doing this series, aside from just being able to get out and enjoy the outdoors with people that you enjoy hanging out with. The best part is these guys like him, Dustin Parsons, Pro from VIP, these guys that have been cooking stuff that they've killed their whole lives, and they just nail it. They're so good at it because they have their recipe, the way they do it. Dustin probably makes those tacos the same every single time he makes those tacos.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think too, like, to me, the experience is so much of it. Like, you could make those tacos, and if you went to the store and bought that fish and you made those tacos in your house and you use the same spice and the same whatever, it would not be the same fish taco, because, you know, sitting out in that little valley that Dustin's house is on, you know, in the sun and the fresh air and the, you know, it just, there's something extra to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different.
Yeah.
It's different, you know. It's not the same. I mean, I brought home and made fish tacos for my family the next night out of those stripers, and it was fantastic.
So you fished striper down there multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Different ways of doing it. These guys are typically, you know, bouncing shiners. They sometimes throwing hardware for them, fly fishing.
Mm-hmm.
I've fly fished for them. But that type of like old school taco feed, have you ever had that experience down there? Every time.
Every time. Yeah. That is like, to me,
that's what they do, right?
That is the most quintessential striper fishing thing. You should go out, you catch a. I mean, I used to fish with my friend Jason Thatcher down there, who's a guide.
Yeah.
I'd go down there, I'd stay at his house, we'd go out and catch a bunch of stripers, go back to his house, he'd invite a bunch of people over, and we'd have a taco feed.
Yeah.
It just is like the part, it's like part of the culture of that striper fishery.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, man. The vibe. Am I wrong in this? Because I grew up in Northern California. I moved to Oregon in '95. Am I wrong in that the vibe of this, the way people interact with each other down there, is different than it is up here?
A great example. Actually, no, because we have the whiskey bar in our house. You can see it from the street.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in the upstairs of our house, so if the light's on, you can always tell we're up there. And we kind of have an open, Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, my light is on my whiskey bar. It means I'm in the whiskey bar and you can come to my house.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's 6 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. If the light's on.
Or 6 o'clock in the morning.
It's usually not on at 6 in the morning. I'm too old for that now. I'm an old man now. I'm 45. But it's weird because people don't generally even believe you. Yeah. I mean, you go, yeah, man, if you drive past, that light's on, come on. And they'll text you and be like, hey, man, I see the lights on. Or do you think? I'm like, yeah, I'm up here. Come up. Yeah. Are you sure it's okay with your family? Yeah, my family doesn't care. They're probably people, you know. But, yeah. But it is different.
You do get the ask, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no ask down there.
That's what I mean. Like there,
show up.
There, it's like, you know, when we went to Eric's, it was like, hey, the door's open, pull in, the beer is flowing out of the fridge, and you can come in. And those guys that stopped by when we were there they just showed up because the door was open.
And my guess is probably not like the closest friends or family, right? Like they're just like, hey, I know that guy. He's a cool dude. I'm gonna swing. You know,
the door's open.
But then again, everybody down there's like they all grew up down there. They don't leave.
Yeah,
you know
that part is crazy to me.
There are very few people who move to Yuba City.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. When I moved to Portland, I know tons of people that I've met mainly through music who are from Yuba City, Grass Valley, Marysville. You know, that northern part, basically San Francisco north. Yeah. I met a ton of people. I probably know 25 people. Travis, Mike Fry, all those guys are from Marysville, Yuba City. But it's not often that people move to Yuba City from someplace else.
Yeah, it's not a real destination.
It's not. But when you're raised there, it's hard to leave because there's just so much. It's not as much as there used to be, but there's so much opportunity for people who hunt and fish.
I think, you know, I've told people for a long time, like I think Northern California from kind of the Oregon border to the Sacramento Delta is maybe the most underrated outdoor part of the United States.
I would agree with that.
You know, the trout fishing's phenomenal.
Yep.
The steelhead fishing's great. There's salmon. There's stripers. The deer. Every house we went to down there, they got blacktails that are bigger than anything I've ever seen in my life.
Massive.
You know, and I've hunted since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, just the quality of outdoors experience down there is so high.
You've also got the coast. You're only, I mean, so basically the same as here.
Just like Portland.
You know, Willamette Valley isn't much different. You know, when you drive through where it opens up, like basically Albany south until you get to like Roseburg.
Yeah.
It looks and feels like a greener version of Yuba City.
It does. I always think like, you know, I was born there and lived there until I was like a third grader down in that general area, Santa Rosa. And I always think that that's why I love, you get out by like Sheridan and you have those rolling grassy hills and the oak trees, and that's always reminds me of a greener version of that, you know, that kind of, you know, Sheridan, McMinnville, Willamina.
Yeah.
Because you hit those, like the oak savanna. You know, that kind of oak savanna is so cool down there, and I always love it when I'm here too. For that reason, it's just such a cool spot. It just feels cool.
Yeah, I think that that part of Northern California not only is underrated from an outdoors perspective, but I also think it's underrated from a like human perspective. In that some of the best people I know come from that area. And it might just be because I was raised there and I know people, but we're talking about generations of families that never leave. And when we drove through the Sutter Buttes and you see those ranches that have been there for ever, you know, these names that are, when you're from that area and you go, oh, the Catlets, or oh, the Ropers, the Ziegenmeyers, if you're from the area, you know exactly who you're talking about, you know?
I think that's such a rural thing, though.
It is.
I grew up. You and I both grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, you grew up in that rural part of California. I grew up in the more rural part of the Willamette Valley, and obviously, you know, 35 years ago, it was even more rural still. But, you know, I grew up in Silverton area, and still, like, all those families are still there, and they don't leave. And it amazes me how many people.
Silverton does have old ass families.
It has old families, and I went to school with tons of the Kinseys and the Stadleys, and it's the same exact feel. It's really interesting because, you know, that kind of rural part of the Willamette Valley, while it looks different, feels very much the same as that rural part of Northern California. You know, old families, been there forever, farmland, you know, and farms that pass from generation to generation, and it's very similar feel. It's you know, if you've been to one, you feel right at home in the other.
Yeah. I think there's a big difference between growing up in a rural area where you have where it's got that old family thing going on, hunting, fishing, you have rights to certain areas. I mean, how many people, like when I lived in LeGrand, there was the Baker family, and they had access to all kinds of different properties and people and things, and they were just one of 100 because there's old families out there, versus maybe you grew up closer to Sacramento, or you grew up closer to Portland, and you like to go to the Clackamas River and fish, and you like to go maybe to Sauvie Island, or Sauvie? I don't know how to say it every time.
However you say it.
Yeah. That big muddy patch of dirt in the Willamette. You like to go to Columbia, whatever it is. You go out there and you like to hunt ducks. It's different. I mean, it's a public land aspect of it, which is important, but it's different when you're entrenched in. And the reason I say that is like Dustin's lease that he has for duck hunting down in Yuba City. He got that lease, and I don't want to pretend like I know all the details of it, but he got it because of the relationships that he built, and it is owned probably by a guy who's had it for 1,000,000 years, and he's had it for a decade. He's had the lease on that land.
Yeah.
And everybody just knows that's Dustin's spot. I mean, pretty much something bad's going to have to happen to Dustin before somebody can get that lease.
Yeah.
Or he just gives it up, you know. Those long-term things are why people don't leave. Part of the reason why people don't leave.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like, there's a support system that exists in rural parts of America, whether it's Oregon or California, that are very different. You know, like, and I think that's the other reason. You know, there are places where, you know, you can. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it, but you move to a city and you can not know anyone in your whole entire building, and that's just your building. You don't know anybody.
I don't know the names of half my neighbors.
Yeah,
I've lived there for 5 months now.
Yeah, and that's so different than what you find in rural parts of America.
But I've tried. I'm the guy who's out there in the driveway going, "Hey, want to have a beer?
Yeah.
You know, how's your lawn coming?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, "What is this weirdo doing?"
Yeah, it's a different feel, but I think that's why a lot of people don't leave too, is they don't want to feel so detached from people.
Yeah.
You know, again, it goes back to that conversation we were just having about, you know, people being like, "Are you sure I can come over?" You're like, "Yeah, I told you could come over anytime you want."
That is the weirdest thing to me, because my wife is very much that way. Like, you just don't show up at people's houses. That's rude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've known that asshole for 30 years.
Yeah.
I will knock on his door at 7 in the morning if I want to. You know what I mean? Like, I'm used to that. And I would 1,000%. If you were on my side of town, we live on opposite sides of town. If you were on my side of town and you happen to be in my neighborhood and you're like, let's see what Alex is doing, and I was in the yard doing a major project, if you're like, "Hey man, just thought I'd say what's up," I'd be like, "Hey, come on, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll help me.
Yeah.
But come BS me for 10 minutes. cool. Well, have a good day. See you later.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
That is 100% a rural, certain type of like rural outdoors person attitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like most in the comments of this when we post this to Facebook. Sorry, cut you off there, but I feel like most of you people watching this are going to want or would agree with me in that you probably got all kinds of people that you just stop by their house, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, there are a handful of people I know who have kind of that, like, sure, whenever, whatever, show up at my house. But it's really not that many.
I know.
You know, and that's the other part is, like, we may have that, you know, it's that thing about we may have that sort of rule at my house.
Yeah.
And you might find the house is messy because my kids have been destroying stuff. Or
I've been over to your house where it looks like a bomb went off.
Yeah, well, you know.
I have little kids. I guarantee you I'm going to go home tonight. It's going to look like a bomb went off.
Yeah, you know, or I got to lock my dogs up because I'll bite somebody. But
dog's an asshole.
My dog is a dick. But that being said, you know, short of that, it's like, yeah, if you don't care if the house is messy, come in my house. Yeah. You know, I don't care. But I don't know a whole lot of people like that either. Most people are kind of like, it'd be a little weirded out if you just stopped at my house.
Listeners and watchers of this podcast, you have homework now. Find somebody that you're relatively close with and just show up at their house. Randomly on like a Saturday afternoon. Just show up and see what happens. I bet you it's not as awkward as you might think. We could use more of it, I think.
Yeah, I think more people would probably be like, oh, cool, somebody stopped to visit me. That's awesome.
Maybe. Let's hope. Well, the Hudson was good. I recommend it. We'll add it to the shelf. Please go to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this, you're already on the YouTube channel. If you're listening to this, you're not. But go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. Check out the new web series. Right here, we got a little bit of Ryan Beck action. If you're listening to this, you can't see any of the stuff that we're pointing out, but it doesn't matter. Go to the YouTube channel, watch it, then you'll know exactly what we're talking about. And actually, AJ, we should look and see. Spotify, I think, might allow us to upload the video. So we'll check that out.
And when you talk and point at a random person, it's AJ.
Yeah.
So now it makes sense.
Now it makes sense.
Because otherwise people are like, what are you doing?
All right. We'll do this again soon. That was fun.
Perfect.